My name is Andre James, and I'm from Kingston, Jamaica. Yeah, but currently I live in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and I've been living in Brazil for the past, call it, 11 years. Came here in 2010, been here ever since.
What brought you to Brazil? Like, how did you end up here?
That's a very funny story because it kind of happened like randomly. You see me? I was at my friend's mother's house, right? And she was reading the newspaper, and she saw this ad in the newspaper saying that the embassy in Jamaica, the Brazilian embassy in Jamaica, was offering opportunities for Jamaican nationals to study here. And at the time, I kind of laughed when she asked if I was willing to study in Brazil. You know what I mean? I laughed real hard, but I decided to take her up on it. Went to the Brazilian embassy. I signed up to do dentistry. I got into the program and arrived in Brazil 2010, where I lived in Brasilia for a year to learn Portuguese and Brazilian culture. 2011, I moved to Sao Paulo to do dentistry. So that's basically how I ended up in Brazil. But trust me, it's the best decision I ever made. I didn't even realize I was even making that good of a decision, but it was a good decision.
How did you adjust? Like, because obviously
Right.
you came to a country with, you hadn't been outside Jamaica before then, or had you been
No. I traveled outside of Jamaica before coming here, but obviously, it's typical Jamaican routes. You know what I mean? The U.S. Places that speak English.
Yeah,
I went to Panama one time, but outside of that, no. But yeah.
So how was the adjustment here? Because obviously, there wasn't many Jamaican, well, there was no Jamaican expats when you got here.
Right. Alright, so a majority of the Jamaicans that come to Brazil, they come here on this program I'm talking about. It's called PECIG, right?
Yeah.
So it's a program that, right, students, right? And it's not many of us, because in my year, there was about like 8 of us, 8 or 6 that came here, and that was a big deal at the embassy at the time. You know what I mean? So yeah, we mainly come here as students, and the majority of us, we don't actually end up staying, right? But very few. I think I'm one of the first ones to actually stay. You know what I mean? Like to build a life in Brazil.
Yeah.
So yeah, I adjusted decent. You know what I mean? I came here at 19. So like as an adult, I would say I'm a Brazilian adult in that regard. Because my entire adult life is Brazilian. So so it wasn't very hard to adjust. I imagine if someone came here at like 33, it may be hard. You know what I mean? But if you come here at 19, Brazil is all I know as an adult. You get me?
What about like the food? Because obviously if you go to the
food,
States,
right,
or go to the UK, you can still get your home cooked, like
right,
food and stuff.
right. All right, so when I came here, it was hard. Won't lie, because you come here with typical Jamaican mentality. You know what I mean? You don't really want to try nothing new, stuff like that. So I used to cook a lot. You know what I mean? But then I started like trying Brazilian food. No, I like Brazilian food. I won't even lie. I like Brazilian food. It's not as seasoned as Jamaican food, but there's certain things that I like about it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I like food in Brazil. I won't lie. But that was actually one of the reasons, the whole food situation, when I made the decision to actually stay in Brazil. The food situation, I was like, you know what, if I'm going to stay here, I'm going to have to do something about the lack of Caribbean cuisine in Brazil. So that's why I started Jerky's Cuisine Caribbean.
Okay.
I mean, and we're the first Caribbean/Jamaican restaurant in the country, and only one so far.
Okay.
Right.
So the food wasn't that hard of an adjustment because you actually liked it.
It took about like a year and a half.
Okay.
Right.
What was difficult for you here, like in the early years?
It would have to be the language was kind of hard. It wasn't really, really hard though, because I was speaking Portuguese after 3 months. Because the program that we're in, we were having Portuguese classes 5 days a week for 7 hours. You know what I mean? So you end up learning, you end up speaking fast. But one of the things about, how can I put it? So it's one thing like learning the words in a language, right? Is another thing like learning how to use the language. You know what I'm saying? So like, yeah, you know how to say you know how to say things, but you don't necessarily know how to be like funny. You don't necessarily know how to be sarcastic. You know what I mean? Like these little nuances. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like these little nuances. That was the hard part for me because in English I'm a sarcastic person, right? And I like giving sarcastic replies and jokes, right? So in Portuguese it took me a while. It took me a while to get back that groove. You know what I mean? What else was hard? In the beginning, dating was hard. That was hard, but once the language got going and you learn how to give your jokes and de-escalate situations with the words to use, that was easy.
Did you find anything that you had like in common with Brazilians?
A few things, but not a majority of stuff. Like as a Jamaican, Jamaican people stay. Like we're very abrasive, we're very direct. You know what I mean? And in Brazilian society, that's not viewed as a positive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that being abrasive is good, but I'm just saying like in Jamaica, if someone doesn't like you, they'll let you know straight up. If somebody wants to tell you no, they'll tell you no straight up. In Brazil, people don't say no. Like people use certain code words. You know what I mean? And if you like I said, it goes back to what I was saying. If you don't understand how to read these cultural nuances, you'll misinterpret certain type of things. So like for example, like people would offer me stuff, right? But really and truly, the cultural nuances that you should not accept it. But I would accept everything. You know what I mean? I was viewed as rude. You get me? So like that was definitely a big difference. Yeah, how people handle like situations and conflicts. In Jamaica, as I said, people are very direct. Over here, people aren't. So I think that, yeah, I know you asked about similarities, but I don't see that much similarity in terms of like the way we behave.
Yeah.
But definitely as a culture in general, like being friendly, I think Brazilians, if you look at Jamaican culture and Brazilian culture, there are a lot of like cross sections. Like Brazilians love to go out, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like Jamaicans, what else? Yeah, it's basically like Brazilians are very friendly, and I think Jamaicans are friendly as well. Especially if they know that you come from overseas. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So obviously there was a few difficult things, but what was like good about the first time?
Being here?
Yeah, like after being here for a little while,
right?
Like, what was good about being in Brazil?
Alright, listen, like I'll tell you this, like growing up in Jamaica, life was hard. You know what I mean? I was born in Walton Park. Anybody who know Walton Park, I'd have to say a lot. So one of the things that Brazil, being here, I got a certain comfort in life. You know what I mean? Brazil provided certain things for me that Jamaica didn't. You know what I mean? So immediately, I would say that my experiences in Brazil just started out good. Because compared to how I was living in Jamaica, like being here, I had like, for example, like my own room, my own place to stay, my own apartment, my own, regular meals, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like my life got a lot better here. Like off the rip. You know what I mean? And then obviously, like being a doctor, that's good. I got a dental degree without paying anything. So that's good. So yeah, my life got a lot better just off the rip, just being here. You know what I mean?
Do you feel like there was any misconceptions about Brazil that you?
Yeah, for sure. Of course. Like So I lived in Brasilia, right? Brazil is the capital of Brazil. Even though a lot of people think it's Rio de Janeiro, that's not the case, right? So Brasilia is basically the administrative capital of Brazil. You know what I mean? So it's very not beachy, no beaches, none of those Brazilian stereotypes that people that I see on TV was in Brasilia. You know what I mean? So you didn't see like girls in bikinis and like beaches and it was a very serious city because obviously all the government agencies are there. So all you had was like public servants. You know what I mean? So that, for me, that broke, and I'm happy that I went to Brasilia because that destroyed a lot of stereotypes for me, and it allowed me to like understand the country from a better standpoint. You know what I mean? Not from a standpoint of preconceived notions. You know what I mean? And the truth is, the Brazil that we see on TV, when you know, on the outside of the country, is actually Rio de Janeiro. And the majority of those images are true, you know what I mean? But it's not Brazil. It's a specific place in Brazil, you know what I mean? So yeah, so that helped me a lot because, like I said, and I moved from Brasilia, I moved to Sao Paulo, right? And Sao Paulo is a super formal place, you know what I mean? Like it's the economic capital of the country, in the sense that, you know, this is where all the money is made, a majority of the money is circulated. So yeah, that was one of the things. I thought everyone liked football. You know, I thought everyone was into samba. Everyone was about the beach. And the truth is, yeah, you have a big following. A majority of people like the beach, but you do have a large amount of people that are not, you know, they're not really into football at all. You know what I mean? Or it's a lot of those stereotypical stuff.
So you left Brasilia and then came to Sao Paulo.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
how was it, like, studying and living life in Sao Paulo?
I'll tell you this. I liked Sao Paulo. Studying in Sao Paulo was good for me because it kept me focused. You know what I mean? Because in Sao Paulo, people are about their cash. You know, people are about like getting stuff done. So yeah, Sao Paulo was a much more serious environment for me. You know, Brasilia was serious as well, but Brasilia was a bit too dead. Because, as I said, it's a city that was made just for public officials. You know what I mean? Whereas Sao Paulo has more of a culture. You know what I'm saying? So like Brasilia has like an artificial. Brasilia doesn't really have a soul to it. It's just a place where people sleep, live, and work. You know. But Sao Paulo, when I came here, yeah, I really enjoyed being in Sao Paulo. Really enjoyed it. It kept me focused. You know, that's when I started teaching English. You know, to fund my way through school, because even though I wasn't paying tuition, obviously I have living expenses, right? So yeah. Sao Paulo, trust me, Sao Paulo taught me a lot. Yeah.
Okay. So obviously you finished your studies and then
Right.
what was happening after that? Did you go into work or?
Right. All right. So what happened was the idea. I never intended to be in Brazil permanently. You know, even coming here, the idea was, okay, I'm gonna get my education, be a dentist, and then probably move to Canada or the States. Right. That was the plan, right? So during dental school, I started to intern in the States, right? I was doing that for like 4 years, 4 or 3 years, I don't remember. But I would basically spend my semesters here in Brazil and my breaks in the US, right? So I would be able to spend like 2 months in the US for every semester. So that was like 4 months out of the year I'd be in the States, interning and stuff like that. So that was the route. But as I went on and like, you know, living in the country, and when I graduated, I remember my graduation ceremony, I was like, yo, I don't think I want to leave Brazil. You know, even though like obviously, you know, in the States, dentists make a lot more money, you know, I kind of enjoyed the Brazilian way of life. You know what I mean? And the thing about it is like for me, Sao Paulo is a nice sweet spot for me because it's not as slow as Jamaica, but it's not as fast as like a New York, for example. You know what I mean? So like for me, it's a nice place for me, you know. And also I started thinking about certain privileges that I have being here. So like for example, I started Jerky's. I'm the founder of Jerky's Cuisine Caribbean, and you know, we are the only Jamaican restaurant in Sao Paulo. You know, in Brazil. So like there are certain privileges like being the only one, you know what I'm saying? So much so that we started during the pandemic last year and we're still open.
Obviously open this, you know,
Right.
You're unique in that regard. But
Right.
How, like, what made you come to this idea? Like, you know, because obviously it's a big change from dentistry.
Right.
Opening a restaurant.
I mean, the truth is, I think, like for me, Brazil is, if you're gonna try and get a 9 to 5, I don't think Brazil is a place for you. You know what I mean? I think Brazil, when it comes on to investment opportunities, is really, really rich in opportunities. You know, and the reason for that is because the country is big, so the market is huge, and not only that, but Brazil recently started getting immigrants. Less than 1% of the Brazilian population is immigrant. You know what I mean? Like recent immigration. So you're talking about a country that has what? Almost 250 million people. Less than 1% of that is immigrant. You know what I mean? So like a lot of the ideas, so for example, like having a Jamaican restaurant in a place like a London or a Toronto or a New York, this would be nothing. You know, but in Sao Paulo in Brazil, it's a big deal. It's something that's changing the gastronomic landscape, the culinary landscape of the city. You know what I mean? And so yeah, so that's like for me was one of the reasons, like understand that I have certain privileges being here, you know. So yeah, in Brazil I wouldn't make as much as a dentist, being a dentist, but at the same time I have more opportunities to be entrepreneurial. So I'm not really sure about how it works in the UK, but I know in the States, in order to sell alcohol, you have to have a liquor license.
Yeah,
In Jamaica, right, it's the same thing,
Same.
right? In Brazil, you don't need a liquor license. So certain things, like there's less bureaucracy in certain things. You know what I'm saying? And yeah,
So obviously it's hard to give like a true idea of how you're doing because
Right.
pandemics hit everyone.
right.
But-
I mean, right now, I won't even lie to you. Yo, just being alive speaks for itself. You get me?
Yeah.
Just like being open, like the standard is so low at this point. It's like, yo, just being open means that you have to do good. You have to do good. You know what I mean? So yeah, but we're open. You know what I mean? So that right there is speaks for itself.
Have you got any like plans? Like what else are you doing inside this place?
All right, so the thing is, we have my company. We have how can I put this? We specialized in Caribbean culinary experiences. That's the idea. Jerky's Cuisine Caribbean is a restaurant that specializes in jerk cuisine, right? Just jerk. And the idea is we're going to be a chain of restaurants. The pandemic kind of slowed our expansion down, but Jerky's was planned to be a chain. Jerky's is the first project out of the drawer. You know what I mean? But we have other projects, right? So we have a project for a patty shop, a project for a company that's going to sell roti, right? A Caribbean bakery, a Caribbean bar. You know what I mean? Because as I said, like this, Brazil, there's a lot of room for this type of stuff. You know what I mean? Different cuisine, you know, and the Caribbean is a place that Brazilians they fantasize about, but they don't really know a lot about, if that makes sense. So like when you say Caribbean beaches and the coconut juice and coconut water and margaritas, blah blah blah, stuff like that, but they don't really know exactly a lot about the region. So we feel as though like focusing on these experiences, West Indian experiences in Sao Paulo in Brazil, puts us at an edge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, man, that's good to hear. Have you got any like advice? Because obviously you've been here.
Right.
Yeah, so have you got any advice for anyone else who's thinking about
Moving here, I would say if you're planning to move to Brazil, don't think about getting a job. Don't. Salaries suck. Salaries in Brazil are horrible. You know what I mean? Like, let's put it this way: if you're coming from a first world country, you know, a country, let me not say first world, a country that's more economically developed, you know what I'm saying, like a Canada or a France or you know, a place like the UK. I would say come here to be an entrepreneur, because if you're going to try and get a 9 to 5, you won't get paid as well, you know, as you would in back home, right? Or that's one option, being an entrepreneur here. Or you get hired at a multinational in your country, get transferred to Brazil. So that way you make, be it euros, USD, or pounds. You're getting your salary in pounds, but you're spending it in Brazil. I definitely recommend Brazil to everybody, especially people who are West Indian. I really feel as though like
is that because of the opportunities, or because like obviously now it's so difficult to get to Europe? And
I would say, all right. So I would do this. I think the real money is in emerging markets, right? So if you think about like England or the U.S., a lot of these markets, they already have consolidated companies, consolidated products. It's a much more mature market, So for you to penetrate, it takes a lot more money, a lot more effort, and the likelihood of failure is very high, right? When you look at certain emerging markets like Brazil, for example, you have a currency that's relatively strong, right? Because it's right now it's 5 Brazilian reais to 1 USD, compared to like Jamaica, where that's like what 100 and like maybe 50, 60, almost 200 Jamaican dollars for 1 USD, right? So we have a stable currency, right? A market that's not fully matured, so like there's more money to be made here, in my opinion. It's cheaper for you to enter the market, right? It's cheaper for you to survive, and yeah, that's why I would recommend that people take a look to Brazil and South America in general. As English speakers, we tend to be very arrogant in the sense of like not learning new languages or like learning new cultures and stuff like that. But I really think there's money to be made in learning this. So I would encourage any West Indian to check out Brazil. Your money goes a lot further here, and yeah, a lot of opportunities.